I'm now going to work with the 3-conductor cable, which will connect to the mic jack. I want to strip this back approximately 2 inches, very carefully scoring the outer shield with a razor blade, almost enough to go through but not quite. Then I'll flex it to go ahead and break the outer shield. It's okay to cut all the way through, but you have to be very careful not to get into the structures underneath. So I like to nick it just enough to score the plastic. Then the stress of bending the wire back and forth actually does the rest of the work for you. This is by far the hardest and most tedious part of wiring an intercom system. Now I gently work this enough where I can grab the end. A little bit at a time and get it loose. Now I bunch up the shielding. I use one of my favorite tools, which is the small needle nose pliers. The idea is to work the shield open, get the pliers inside, and pull them out. There will also be a inner identification strip which can be pulled loose. Something you want to inspect very closely for. It's typically what is done wrong in this process. If you score with the razor blade too hard, you'll go directly through the shield and you'll actually score the inner conductors right here. As these conductors work back and forth in service, the insulation will move back and you have the conductor wire exposed directly in the area where you have a shield. Obviously the potential for a short is very great right here. Now I've got the 3 conductors exposed and a shield, and on my wire diagram for the pilot mic jack I only have 3 pins, and you'll see we have 4 things to put in the 3 pins. This is where the note becomes important, and also the detail on the schematic showing the shield in common with what I've labeled as the white wire to pin 11 in the DB25 connector. So I'm going to be taking the white wire and the shield, soldering them together, then using a second pigtail to bring those wires back to the connector. So the white wire and the shield I'm going to bend back, trim, strip the wire. I'm going to strip the pigtail wire, solder them together, heat shrink them, and then cut this pigtail to length. And in that way I have put the shield in common with the ground or base wire to pin 11. This process some people tend to take to extremes, and they like to keep things really short, and a lot of times a installer will actually cut these wires and try and put them in line with the pigtail, and in doing so have shortened up the working length of the remaining wire. So in all cases I always bend it backwards to give myself more room to work with it. I'm simply stripping a short length of regular mil-spec wire, twisting it in common with the white wire from the 3-conductor bundle. Then with that, twisting in also the shield. I'll use a tool to hold these in place. Conduct the heat into one side of my part. Feed the majority of the solder in the opposite side. And use the iron tip to work the results as necessary. Now I can heat shrink this joint. First over the 3-way solder joint, then one larger piece over the entire structure, and I'll have a nicely terminated pilot mic jack conductor.